You're listening to the AfterBuzz TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Keith Johnson.
From Los Angeles, California, and Maria Menounos, and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies, this is AfterBuzz TV Spotlight On. Spotlight On is a long-form interview series featuring actors and TV personalities. And now, from the world's #1 TV after-show platform, this is AfterBuzz TV Spotlight On.
Hi everyone, this is Ashley Daniels. I'm here with Roxy Stryer today, and obviously we're here with somebody that's super cool, but this is a new type of cool. This is I would say you're like a relationship guru, you're like an expert. He mainly speaks to men about relationships and how to deal with situations with girls, but he also, at least for me, I found him super interesting in other ways because for me, I took a lot of your information. So we're here with Todd Valentine, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hey, thanks. I'm Todd Valentine. I've been teaching dating to men for 11 years now and trying to figure it out myself for the better part of 14. And I'm just glad to be here.
It's so cool to have you.
Thanks.
Okay, so for anybody who hasn't seen his videos, you have to check out his YouTube. What is your YouTube actually?
It's youtube.com/RSDTodd.
Okay. I can't even tell you. At first, I was like, oh, I'll just watch this because obviously I'm going to be interviewing you. And then I started to get sucked in because he has a way that obviously men are going to find this really interesting because it's going to help them with situations with women, which we'll get into. But for me, I was just like, I'm taking notes for life. Just situations like the utility versus justice, like living in the moment and the tilt and the sunk cost effect. I thought that was the coolest thing I've ever heard. I was like, why couldn't we have this in school? Why couldn't we learn this in school?
It's entertaining and it's informative, which I think is really important because some of these videos, I feel like people come from such a pretentious place and they say, you know, this is how you do it. And I was watching one of your videos and at the end you say, I don't have all the answers. And if somebody tells you they do, run the other way because there's no way that they do. And I love that you said that because, and even now you say, I'm still trying to figure it out. Mm-hmm. Nobody has it completely figured out. Not all women are the same. You can't pick up every girl the same kind of way. So I thought that was really cool that you admit what you know and admit what you don't know.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's important.
How did you get started in this?
Wow. I went a long time without any girlfriends and a lot of frustration.
How long?
I was a virgin until I was 19. I never even tried to ask a girl out properly until I was about 17. I was just terrified of being rejected, but also I think I was terrified of succeeding because I felt like if I succeeded and I got a girlfriend, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to be a good boyfriend, and I was scared of like sort of being found out. So it was easier for me to kind of hide and just assume that, you know, one day I will figure it out or it will come together, as opposed to putting myself out there and failing and having to deal with that negative emotion.
What gave you that fear, though, of not being a good boyfriend? Had you seen other men not succeed in this way? Was it something growing up, or why were you always so fearful that you weren't going to be the right guy?
I think I was really a perfectionist. My parents kind of raised me to spend all my time doing school and sports and that kind of stuff, and I was really good at that because it's all I spent my time doing. And so that was part of my identity, was I'm the guy that's good at things. And then I really, really cared about women. I've always had like massive crushes. I always wanted to like be good with girls, but I knew that I wouldn't be because I could, you know, I didn't know which way was up. I didn't have a model for like how the world worked in that sense.
Was there a guy that you looked at as your role model and you were like, wow, that's the cool guy. That's the guy that I want to be like?
There were a few guys actually like in high school and college that I really looked up to. And then I looked up to certain characters in like movies. Like I could quote all these like romantic scenes from movies or like the pickup scenes from various, and I thought that's how it worked. To a certain extent,
it's not.
Give us one now. Do you have one that on the top of your head that you've like?
I like the Al Pacino from Sense of a Woman, where he walks over to the girl and he says like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "I'm waiting for someone. Or I'm expecting someone." He says, "Instantly," He goes, well, in a minute. He goes, well, my dear, some people live a lifetime in a minute.
I
thought that was like so smooth.
Did you ever try to use it? I bet it would work.
I've used that line. Yes, I have used that line.
I swear, some people, they have no idea about any of these movies. You could go, you could use all old movie quotes, and the women would be swept off their feet. I'm pretty positive. Like the random girl at the bar, they just think you're so smooth, but you steal all your stuff from somewhere else.
I'll tell you a dirty little secret on that, which is when I've done online profiles for like online dating, a lot of times I have borrowed lines from TV and movies.
We'll talk about that, the online dating. So is that something that you do personally, or you suggest that clients do, or what is that to you?
I've done it personally. Had good success. I'm actually writing a book along with my current girlfriend.
I wanted to give a shout out. You are so beautiful and so sweet. So shout out to you.
Yeah. So we're actually writing a book
red.
on online dating together. She's a professional writer, so we're working on that together, and coming out with a product on that very soon as well. So.
Okay, so I want to go back to I have this is too much of a gap for me. I have to know. I need details. I'm like a detail person.
Okay.
So you grow up. You know, you're hanging out with your guy friends, and now is there a point where they start to get girlfriends, and you start to feel like, okay, like I don't have a girlfriend yet. Like maybe
when's
I should
my
start.
turn?
Yeah, like, or were you just like, no way, because of what you said, like you were a perfectionist and.
Yeah, I was a perfectionist. Funny enough, I had girls that actually asked me out growing up, and I said no to them because I was that afraid. And I would even have gone out of my way to make them like me. They'd ask me out, and I'd say no. It was that bad.
Just because I'm a little bit of a stalker. Wasn't there like a board game scenario where you?
Yeah. I was in junior high. I think 7th grade. We had a board game class,
Right.
and I'm really good at board games. I played chess. I learned to play when I was 2 years old. I'm really good, and I beat everybody at every game the entire time. But there was this one girl who beat me at a board game.
Oh my god.
The one who got away.
The one who got away.
Kidding.
Yeah.
Kidding.
So, and she was also the cutest girl in the class too. So I actually bought a book and studied up on how to win at that game, and then I beat her like so badly the next week, just like devastated.
You gotta let the girl win though. You can't beat the girl.
Yeah, right.
Well, apparently it worked because then she got her friend to ask me out. But I was so nervous.
For her, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh.
She called me up and said, "Hey, what do you think about my friends? Would you go out with her?" And I was like, "Let me think about it." And then she called me back like an hour later. She's like, "Never mind, offer's off the table." And like hung up.
See, okay. So you obviously more often than not, I remember boys being afraid of girls. And just kind of, afraid of, like, whether they're perfectionist or not, like, of the rejection. So did that at all play a factor into it?
Oh, for sure. I think it's the present rejection, but even more so like the future rejection. Like guys that I work with, a lot of times they're afraid of walking up and talking to a girl, but even more so, they're not afraid of walking up and talking to her. They're afraid of 5 minutes into the interaction having that awkward silence where there's nothing to say. And because if you walk up and the girl just says like, leave. I'm trying to be politically correct, PG-13 here.
Right. No, you can actually do whatever you want.
She says fuck off.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
Exactly.
The girl says fuck off. That's not so personal. But if you've actually talked to her and built like some kind of connection, and then it goes completely stale, then it's like you're the boring guy or you weren't enough. Right?
Okay. So speaking of this, ever since I moved home from Boston originally, and ever since I moved here, and trust me, I've been asked out by more girls in my life than guys because I went to an all-girls school. So I'm not trying to say that
you're so
I get
beautiful.
asked out, but any time that I have been asked out, like I was at Marshall's the other day, and this guy, I could feel that he was following me around Marshall's. It was totally stalker, like Lifetime movie, like, and I'm like, oh, I'm just playing it up in my head. He's probably not, but I never really looked to see. And then I walked over next door to Nordstrom Rack, and then all of a sudden he's there again, and I'm like, he is. I knew he followed me in there, and he comes up to me and he says, "Hi, hey." And so at first I didn't really answer him because he was kind of far away, but like yelling to me, and I'm like, yeah. And he's like, "Are you Persian?" And I'm like, "No." And he's like,
he didn't want you anymore.
So he goes, "What are you?" And I'm like, "Human being." He's like, "No, like, what's your nationality?" And I'm like, "Why?" I'm like, "I don't understand why." He's like, "Oh, okay, well," and I'm like, "I'm Italian and Armenian, is okay?" And he's like, "Yeah, okay, cool." And I'm like, "Okay, well, bye." And I like went on my way to go. I had no idea what that was. That a pick? Was he trying to pick me up? Was he just inquisitive? Like, what was that? And it's like these moments where these men are like brain dead. Like, who asks that?
Right.
So like,
do you ever have guys? Do you have guys that are like that are literally so far in the dark and have no idea that they're, or is it usually the shy guys that you're with?
No, it's a range, and I would say that's actually relatively common what you ran into.
So, really? Okay, because
Yeah.
that's what I was going to ask you. Is like, So that's a common thing.
I mean, it's several common things. It's several common mistakes guys make, all kind of like layered together there. Yeah.
It just like it just spirals out of control.
Pretty
more
much,
and more.
yeah.
Right. So in that situation, he immediately knew I didn't want anything to do with him because I was like, bye. I went on my way. I was like, sail, bye. Like, I'm not here for,
Right.
But men wanting to pick girls up in like a Target or something, or like a Marshall, like why
That's
do they
where
think
I
that's a
get
good
all my
spot?
dates, definitely.
No, but for real, more often than not, at least the one in like West Hollywood, men try to pick up girls there a lot. So why
I mean, they
would
went. You think they went specifically to pick you up, or they weren't there on their own?
I think men go there not just for any girls.
They're not even shopping.
I absolutely think
Interesting.
that because I've seen guys in Target that are not shopping. They'll like just be walking through the aisles looking for girls, and it's I swear.
Well, I think there are guys that go to a lot of different places to pick girls up. You know, a bar, people who.
That's normal.
Yeah, that I guess that's normal. But if you're not drinking, what's more normal than going to a place that sells you alcohol? If you're not drinking, you go to pick up a girl. So if you don't want to do that, maybe you go shopping. I don't know. That's a little creepy.
I
but
guess
I
you
don't
find
find
more
it.
of a normal girl then if you're. I mean, but I'm saying like you're dressed up at a bar.
Okay, but
you're not
here's
dressed
what-
up at Target.
Here's what I'm curious about. What
You're
you
getting
just
showered
said.
if you go to Target most of the time. You're just like disgusting. So what?
It's true. It's true. But here's what I'm thinking. So because we're both from Boston,
Right.
and I know you travel a lot for work, I'm wondering how different the advice has to be to somebody in LA versus somebody in Boston versus somebody in Paris versus like wherever it is you're going, because I find guys in every place to be so extremely different. Just as one example, on the East Coast, they're way more forward. Usually they'll come up you, they'll approach you, they've got like that swagger. Over here, I find guys like are a little more laid back. They don't really, they're it's a lot more relaxed, a little chiller. So how do you cater to different groups of guys?
Yeah, I'd say, well, I'm kind of on the opposite end because I'm dealing with the guys meeting the girls. But I'd say in the bigger cities, people in general tend to be more direct, and it tends to be, I make a distinction what I teach between what I call value and comfort. Value being like, are you a cool guy who has his life together and would have something to offer to a girl? And then comfort being like, will you form a real connection with a girl and really get to know her and spend your time with her? And I find in the bigger cities, it tends to be more value centric because just the relationships in big cities, it's not like everybody's with their friends that they grew up their whole life with, and they have these deep connections that since they were 2 years old. And it's also people that move to big cities tend to be, I think, more ambitious because there's a lot of job opportunities. So they move from smaller towns to the bigger cities. So it's more of a value culture.
So you're saying you can't be both value and comfort. It's one or the other?
You can be both, but it's hard because most of the things that you do that make you seem more valuable also do break comfort. It's like, imagine like a celebrity, right? If you were to go date like, I don't know, like Tom Cruise or Brad Pitt or something like
Yeah,
that.
obviously, of course.
Right.
I don't think Tom Cruise would work out too well, but I think maybe Brad Pitt.
Okay, yeah. So
Tom Cruise would be interesting.
I'm still Team Jen. Yep, go ahead.
So certainly you'd find them like very attractive and charismatic, and their lifestyle is definitely alluring. But on another hand, there'd be so many girls competing for them, and so much you'd have to deal with that you might feel a little insecure in that scenario. And so that would be a high value, low comfort scenario. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. But how does somebody help that? How would a Brad Pitt of the world help being so low comfort?
What he would have to do is just spend more time with the person. Because if you've spent a lot of time with someone, gotten to know them, shown that you're willing to invest in that person, shown you're willing to like take the time, then that does build the comfort.
And how do you be higher value? Just have more self-worth or have more going on?
Yeah, self-worth have more going on. Also, a lot of what people read into interactions has to do with the perception, not the actual facts. So if you come off as someone who has a lot of things going on, even if you don't, people will perceive that. Because okay, like right now around you, there's probably a million different like sounds and sights and different stimuli around you, and you can't focus on all of them. Like right now, there's like
Yeah,
some
I know,
little
I
things
know.
flying
It
around.
always happens to me every time I have
killing
the spotlight
me.
on. It's like Breaking Bad episode. Did you see Breaking Bad?
Yeah,
The
yeah,
fly,
like-
the guys that
I should just watch
I
that
know.
last week.
You
I
did?
know.
Me too. It's,
Yeah.
Anyway.
So there's so many things going on. If you focus on all of them, you drive yourself insane. So what we do as people, we focus on just a few little elements that are like the key elements in the situation, and we trigger off those.
Okay.
And so when you meet someone, you're immediately looking at like, how are they carrying themselves? What's their vocal tonality like? Are they making solid eye contact, or are they like skittish and looking away? And those factors are what tell you whether they're comfortable with themselves, whether they've had good social feedback in their lives. And so it's not a complete picture, but it's a good like sort of shortcut in the first couple of minutes to tell you where you're at.
So are people actively putting those factors out there? Like, do you choose 5 factors about yourself that you really want to display into a conversation? And if so, what are those factors usually?
So we used to try and do that, like pickup community circa 2002, 2003. That's exactly what we tried to do. We even had a list. It was like the 25 behaviors not to do with a woman, like eliminate all these behaviors and you won't seem nervous.
Oh my gosh.
But the funny thing is, and because these are all the things that the students did wrong, right? But the thing was, when we taught the students that list, they would get so caught up in their head trying not to do those 25 things, they'd get super nervous and they'd do every single one of the 25 things.
That's all they could remember, the things not to do.
Well, and because the reason they were doing it was because they were nervous.
Right.
Instead, what we do now is we get them to like have a better attitude and not seem as nervous. And then those 25 points, without even teaching them, they naturally just go away.
But how do you get somebody to have a better attitude, though?
It's tough.
Yeah, it's definitely okay. So you are you're so intelligent because you can you deal with people, with men specifically, on so many different levels, like ones that are just trying to learn how to approach a girl versus now maybe they're in a long-term relationship. And you specifically said, I don't know the word you call it, but when you're in a relationship for long-term, sometimes people, they stay in the relationship because they feel like it's better off to stay in it than the thought process of admitting to yourself, I spent all these years, like with the car.
Right.
I think you
Sunk
used a
cost
car,
effect.
right?
Yeah.
Yes. So that to me was so interesting because more often than not, you hear like, especially married couples say, oh, it's because of the kids, or, I won't have money, or this or that. And so how did you get to the point? So now you're 19, we're going back, and now you obviously lost your virginity. And did that just
Congratulations.
say, like, yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Big for me.
So did you just say to yourself, okay, that was great, and now I need more of that, so how can I get that? And then like you just like did like all this math, because I mean obviously you play poker, you were saying you're obviously very smart. And
Thank you.
You
Strategic.
Did you just say to yourself, there has to be a strategy to get this more often? Like,
well, fortunately or unfortunately, by the time I had actually lost my virginity, I had done a lot strategically because every step of the way, I was terrible at it. So first I was terrible at walking up and approaching a girl, and thankfully I had a couple good approaches. Like a couple times when I did the awkward approach early on, the girl responded positively, so it encouraged me.
Because it was endearing?
Yeah, I guess, or something. I don't know. They were just nice. But thank you for those girls out there, whoever you were back in the day. I appreciate
Monica
that.
and Sally.
I appreciate that. But so then I got that, and then I got to the point where I would ask for a number, but I was terrible at it. I had to ask for tons of numbers, and then I just like, I'd call and ask for a date, but my phone conversation for a date was, hi, would you like to grab lunch with me? No? Okay, thanks, bye. And then I just keep calling, and I do actually even the same conversation. Yeah, and I just call them until like they'd either like their boyfriend would yell at me and tell me to stop calling their girlfriend or whatever.
No.
Yeah, it was bad. But I got a lot of dates, and so I got practice at the approach, and I got better at it, and I got practice at dating, I got better at it, and I was terrible at first.
So you didn't want a girlfriend. You just wanted to date as many girls as you could possibly date.
I didn't even really know what I wanted. I just knew that I was very frustrated by not having had success in this area of my life, whereas I'd had success in every other area of my life. And this was maybe the area I was most interested in and most concerned about, because as a man, like, what's fed to us from like the day we're born in the media is like you should be able to like make money, win a fight, get a girl, basically.
Yeah. But what about these women? Like, for lack of better words, did you give a shit about any of them, or were they all just kind of like, they're coming in because I need the practice?
Is somewhere in between. I definitely had crushes. I definitely like fell in love. I've had some longer term relationships in there, and then I've had a lot of like dating around in there.
What about heartbreak?
What about heartbreak? I had a lot of heartbreak when I was young, and then some very heartbreaking things as I got older as well.
But less because you've learned how to deal with it better?
Less because I've learned how to deal with it, and less because the same thing doesn't, like, probably the things that have happened to me since getting good with girls have been equally heartbreaking as the things that happened before, but I tend to bounce back from them quicker now.
Okay, so
I see the wheels turning.
no, because I have so much I want to ask. I just could pick your brain all day. Okay, so for instance, like on Millionaire Matchmaker, she like will kind of, well, she will scream at those guys sometimes. She'll tell them, like, you're doing this wrong, and she seems to take that approach. And you, from watching your videos at least, you take an approach of kind of like you're on their team, like kind of more, we're gonna figure this out. Like you have these strategies that it's a little less scary, and and I don't know if it's because do you kind of sympathize with them as well because you've been there, like So you kind of get it, and you kind of, and maybe they feel like in a sense that's why they keep coming
They
back
can relate to you.
Right. And do you, so
Yeah, no, I've definitely
that's
been
why
there.
you're not so harsh, I think, right?
Yeah, most of the mistakes guys make, I've probably made myself at some point.
Okay.
Also, I find that because what I teach is two things. On the one hand, it's technical, but on the other hand, it's emotional. So if you give someone all the technique, but you put them in a bad mood, or you put them in a state of feeling like they're less of like a quality person, that will affect their performance as well. So in a way, I always have to sugarcoat while I'm teaching, or I always have to like pump up even as I'm criticizing, because it's about managing their emotions as well as managing what goes into their head.
Right.
Changing the topic really quickly, because I remember that I saw this and I wanted to ask you about it before I forget. But what is this like go up to the random girl, kiss her move that I watch you do in videos? Like you'll just go up to a stranger, you'll kiss her. She'll say, "But we're strangers," and you say, "Not anymore," or something like that. Like is that like your thing? Is that your go-to move?
Well, I will occasionally like just walk up to a girl and kiss her, but it's not something I'm trying to do. Like usually I just plan on going up and saying hi, but sometimes you say hi and the girl's eyes just light up in a certain way, and you just know that like she likes you.
You know she wants you to kiss her.
Yeah.
Have you ever just been slapped?
This is an interesting question. I've been slapped, I believe, 5 times in my life.
You gotta give us at least one of those stories.
But the secondary part of that is 4 of the 5 girls. 3 of the 5 girls I ended up sleeping with. One ended up sleeping with one of my students. Interestingly enough.
Really?
Were these all slaps after the kiss, after the stranger
Or was
kiss?
it like sexual slaps, like in another like?
Oh no.
Okay. I
Just
swear
in,
I was
like,
like
slap on
more
the-
than 5.
wasn't like whip it. Okay.
No, it wasn't like BDSM stuff. No.
Gotta ask these.
So what happened? Well,
Well-
at least one of the slaps. What's the story?
One of them. This is a weird story. This is the one where she ended up like going with the student actually. So I was in New York, and I was talking to this girl, and she was highly emotional. Like she was.
A lot of us are.
Yeah. Fair enough. But so she was very aroused by me, but she was also like a little flighty and all over the place. And there was a very confrontational sort of interaction, even though there was a lot of arousal there. And then I said something that was just meant to be like a light little tease. I don't even remember what it was actually. But anyway, she slapped me at that moment. She slapped me hard too, like twice hard on the face.
Like where were you?
We were just at a nightclub.
Oh, you were out.
Yeah.
In front of everybody.
Oh, it's too bad you didn't drink, because I don't know if you did or not, but sometimes you get more numb.
Yeah, then I wouldn't have felt it so much.
Yeah. Just saying.
Advice from Ashley Daniels, everyone. Exactly.
But so anyway, at that point I was like, this girl's psycho. This is not worth it. Whatever. Yeah. And so then I was like, okay, well this is done. Whatever. Take care. Have a nice night. Right. But then she did this thing where she went in the next room and she found some other guy like on the dance floor, and then brought him over and tried to like flirt with him in front of me to like get my attention.
Make you jealous thing.
Yeah.
Was she in 5th grade? Like, why would she do that?
I don't know.
That's so strange. See, girls, and I have said this many times before. I'll say it again. I'm not a traitor to my vagina. I'm just saying I get it. We are so weird. We do weird things, and so I do feel for a guy who is not the douchebags, but the guys that are really good guys that have something like that happen to them. Because it's like, what are you trying to accomplish? This isn't the recess yard. Like, grow up. Sorry. And that's to you, whoever did that.
Well, on that point, like, without having a great grasp on women, which you seem to now, but how do you get that? Because everybody's so different. Like, is it because you dated? I mean, in one of your videos, you said you've been with hundreds of women. If you hadn't been with hundreds of women, would you not be able to understand how to approach them?
It would be tougher, yeah. A lot of what I've learned through experience. And well, it's experience, but it's also once you have some experiences, and what I try and give guys is like the models that I've learned from the experiences, so that when they do have experiences, they can make sense of them more. So they don't have to sleep with hundreds of women to figure it out. They can kind of have
you
it
don't
spoon-fed.
recommend your path to all men. You don't say to all guys, you know what, you should literally just try to sleep with everybody or date everybody. That's not your advice always, or is it?
I think everybody's different. I think for some people that can be good. I think for other people, they should. I mean, some people really do want like one girl. They want to settle down, and that's what will make them happiest. And I wouldn't tell them to like go sleep with a million people if like they want to just find that one girl. But in order to find the girl that they probably want, it's probably not going to be the first girl that will accept them. There probably is some skill set there as well.
Okay, so because we're in LA, I've been exposed to a lot of people that I've met that it's the norm here that a lot of girls just are with guys for money, like big time. Like they are like times 10. Like they have these weird things. See, I don't know anything about it, but I find it so fascinating that they know how much these guys have, and they're able so quickly to like get a first class trip to like Bora Bora and then go away and do this and then get like a Celine bag, and it's like in like a matter of a week, and I'm like, what is she doing? So how do you play a factor into that when you are doing any type of discussions with men that are in LA, because they kind of have to be aware, because maybe they think that this girl really does like them and really they're just using them? Or do you factor in their financial status at all and say, listen, be careful, you do have this, you have this?
Like, I do give different advice to different people based on their socioeconomic status, so to speak. I've had some very rich clients who their habit was to like what I call lead with money. Like they just go in and like just try and flaunt money at the girls, and that can work. That can work with some girls, but it's not usually the best strategy. It's usually better if the girl figures it out kind of like by accident, like you weren't trying to tell them, and they're like, oh, here's this guy. Oh, wait, he's also rich. Right. That's usually better than like, oh, here's this guy trying to convince me he's rich. So I tell them not to do that for firstly because it works better, but secondly because even when it does work, a lot of times if you led with the money, they want you for the money, and that's their justification, and so they're going to constantly be in that frame with you.
Right. If that's the first thing you put out there, obviously you'll never really know if that's why they started talking to you or connected with you or not.
But now it's social media. Sorry, I know you're going to say something, but now it's social media, and like so much you have, you're putting your pictures up 24/7. If you have 8 Ferraris, the girl's probably going to know.
Can figure it out, yeah.
And she can Google you and then write net worth afterward, which is one girl I know that does that. So I'm like, wondering like how it gets to that point, like where it's almost like you have to be very private. If you're really looking for somebody, right? You have to kind of... Yeah,
I mean, Dave Chappelle has a joke in his old comedy routine. He says, like, he wants to drive around in a garbage truck just so nobody knows he's Dave Chappelle, right? So there definitely is that factor. But I say that's a high-quality problem. It's like, it's a problem I'd like to have. My 8 Ferraris are holding me back. So.
Yeah. No, of course. And I think that even if the girl... I mean, that puts it on the girl then. She's psycho. She's going and Googling how much he has and all these things. But the last thing I want at a bar is a guy to come up to me and be like, hey, my Ferrari's parked outside. I live in a mansion down the street. Here's how much money I have in my pocket. Can I buy you everything that you ever owned? Like, that is so unattractive to me. Like, I just think that it's the worst. So I think it's smart. All they can do is not lead with it. Right. The rest is up to us women to try to not be psycho, which I know is hard for us. Right. It is. As I said, we're emotional. Again, we're not traitors to our vaginas, but I like that. I'm going to coin that.
You can totally coin that.
I'm stealing it from you.
So, okay, so give me so I'm a guy. Say I'm a guy. I am very confused. I have no idea. I just cannot pick up a girl. So my first step is I find out who you are. What's my first step? What do I do first? Do I sign up somewhere? Like, what do I do first to gain your attention?
Or to contact you? Well, for that, like, I do boot camps, which is coaching. Right. So you'd go to realsocialdynamics.com and then sign up for like boot camp program, and you could find me on there.
Do you do private ones too? Private coaching?
Yeah, we do. Usually my ratio is 3-on-1, like 3 students and me for the weekend. But you can opt in for a one-on-one boot camp. It costs obviously more. But
give us a little teaser. So like, what is something in that boot camp that we would figure out? Again, I'm putting myself in the team. I'm a guy now boat. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm screwed. I don't know what to do. I want to go here. And you're like, oh, well, I can teach you how to what?
Okay. The first thing I usually do with guys is I take them out and, interestingly enough, I throw them kind of in the deep end and see what they do naturally well. Oh my gosh. Right? So
you must laugh a little bit to yourself.
Sometimes. I mean, they do some pretty interesting... I actually learn a lot from, like, the crazy things they do wrong. Like, they make mistakes I would have never thought of that I'm able to learn from without making them.
It probably helps you with women to watch how poorly other guys do with women.
Yeah,
I'm not even kidding.
You need your own reality show.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
Seriously.
I would die. That would be amazing.
I'm just thinking in my head, what are these things? Like, I want to see them, like, right now. So, like, that's just so crazy.
Oh, it's pretty insane. And interestingly enough, in Vegas with my longer term students, we actually film them. So I have my assistants go out and like film them and I break down the footage.
Oh my God.
So I learn a lot from that as well.
Oh my God.
Wait, but doesn't that affect the way that the women treat them if they know they're on camera, or do they not know they're on camera?
No, it's hidden camera. So, yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh,
we
God.
got when
That's insane.
one day when something leaks, I'm gonna be like, this is the best thing I've ever seen in
Yeah,
my entire
right.
life. I'm
Yeah.
just kidding. It will never leak.
That's
I'm sure you're
amazing.
very.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
no, we're very cautious about that. We do a lot of like blur everybody out and make sure everything's private and all that
Right.
kind of stuff.
Yeah,
wherever
in
it
your
goes.
videos, like it's
Yeah.
so is it shot similarly where it's like shot from below and everybody's face is blurred and you can only see the client?
Exactly.
That's cool then.
Okay, so you throw them in,
Mm-hmm.
and then what happens?
So
you watch.
yeah, different guys will have different so we call them sticking points, different areas that they need to improve on. Some guys are too bold. They're like just going too like too strong and like not making any kind of real connection with the girl, whereas other guys are very timid and never make a move. So I'll kind of assess that and then decide on a case-by-case basis what they need to work on. And then I have a series of sort of like drills and exercises for any of the various things.
Cool. Okay, say Ashley's the girl at the bar.
Okay.
And you see her and or your client sees her and you're like, okay, go get her. Do you just literally like push him out and you say go get her however you can, or are you like go get her? I can tell she's the kind of girl who paints her nails, does it so she's gonna want to talk about this kind of whatever it is. Like you notice things about her, so you give advice based on what she looks like or based on her mannerisms, or you literally are just like go flock, go.
So what I would do is before we would have gone out to the bar, given them probably about 2 hours worth of like
Oh my gosh.
coaching and lecture on how to always have something to say. Because that's the one thing I don't want guys to come back is like I ran out of things to say. As long as they're making an effort and saying something, they're going to learn from it. But if they just sit in silence, that's not going to work. So I'll give them coaching on like here's how you always have something to say. And then I'll give them one opener if they need to go use it. It's usually just like you're adorable, I wanted to talk to you, just something very basic, just in case they walk over and like they draw a complete blank.
Oh.
And then from there, what I would do is they're talking to the girl, and I would be either there right next to them. And if there's a point in the interaction where they need to do something, I would actually jump in and like do it for them, or tell them, or whisper in their ear what to do, that sort of thing. Or even sometimes I'll like take their hand and like put the hand on the girl.
Oh my gosh.
So I'll even be like that interactive at times.
Oh my god.
And then afterwards, success or failure, we'll break it down, debrief it, and then go on to the next one.
Success or failure, how do you measure that based on whether they got the girl's number, they get a kiss, they take the girl home? Like, what's a success?
Actually, usually I try not to determine success based on the result they get from the girl, more so based on the effort they put in relative to who they are.
So it's an A for effort kind of thing.
Kind of. Well, I mean, depending. Like, what would be an A for effort for one person would be an
Yes.
F for effort for another,
Right,
depending where
right.
they're at.
Right.
What about, because obviously it does play a big factor because people are shallow and whatever, but what about somebody coming to you who's drop dead gorgeous, probably way easier to tutor them into talking to girls because at first impression girls will accept who they are based on, or as opposed to somebody who's just not that attractive or physically not that attractive?
Sure. Looks help. For sure, looks help. What I find is like looks or having a cool accent or something like that, those kind of things that we stereotypically think make a big difference. What that will do, it will buy you 30 seconds to a minute.
No way.
Something like that. Like it will buy you a little window of time where people will be a little nicer to you and give you sort of leeway if you're socially awkward, or leeway if you say something dumb.
Right.
But beyond that, once you've known them for a little bit,
Yeah.
then you're being evaluated on, as a man, being evaluated on your personality much more so.
Do you help them physically? Like help them with their physical appearance at all before they do? Well, maybe if it's like a haircut, or like you're like, listen, don't wear that ever again.
If it's really awful, I will.
Okay.
For the most part, as long as it's not blatantly hurting them,
Okay.
we leave that for at the end of program or maybe
Okay.
after program. But if it's really bad, yeah, I'll step in and say, hey,
Right.
do this. Yeah.
And just overall, if people are sitting there thinking like, what's really awful, you would recommend just like plain black, plain white, or what is it that you recommend to guys like
To wear?
Yeah.
I mean, we're like at the very bare minimum, just get like a good fitting shirt, which as a guy probably means you think it's a little too tight. And then some good
He's
jeans.
looking at you guys.
And
Yeah.
then it's just shoes that are not like worn out, dirty tennis shoes. Like get some like
Right.
dress shoes. That's a basic sort of like ensemble. And then from there, what I recommend to guys is look around, and whenever you see guys kind of have a catalog in your head, do you think this guy's getting laid? And when you see the guys that look like either the guys that have hot girls with them or the guys that just look
can
that
tell.
way,
Yep.
sort of like take a mental note of what their style is and create a style of your own that's similar to that over time.
Got it. Now that you're well established and it's clear that you've been with a lot of women and there's not a problem there, and you're good at picking up women, picking up girlfriends, having long-term girlfriends, whatever it is, do you ever just like as refresher course or whatever you want to call it, call up a girlfriend of yours, a friend who is a girl, and say like, what do you think about this? Like, how do girls react to this? Or do you ever interview girls about it?
Sometimes, yeah. A lot of my girlfriends are ex-girlfriends.
Hey, that's good though that you
Yeah.
can keep them as friends. Like sometimes
Yeah.
it all ends badly.
Yeah, it's either ends really well and we stay friendly, or it ends really badly. But yeah, a lot of my good friends are exes, and yeah, I'll call them up from time to time, or I'll just talk to whoever I'm dating, or I have a lot of guys that know what's up to. So
Well, I ask that because, like, how do you become qualified to know what women want? Just because of the mass amount of people, or because you do talk to these women?
I would say, I mean, the experience definitely helps in general, and then the fact that my experience sort of fits certain models, right? And then it's like in science, right? You have like a hypothesis, you test it, and then when the results confirm it, it makes your hypothesis stronger. So I would say, because we have these sort of models for how the world works, and when we're put into new situations, we can sort of predict the new situation with them. That validates the model.
Got it.
So now, being a jealous type or somebody who's possessive, a lot of men get insecure and they get very possessive and they scare girls off. So when does that happen more often than we think? And how do you assess that based on, like, can you immediately tell when you meet somebody that you're going to start training he gets possessive, or do you ask like a bunch of questions on a survey or something, and then like they answer it truthfully, and then you realize like, he texts 50 times when she didn't answer in 5 minutes?
Yeah, usually you can tell by basic behavior what other behavior will be.
Okay.
So if a guy's like too obsessed over, like, if a guy meets a girl for 2 minutes and he's like super obsessed with her for the next 3 hours, that's kind of, you can tell he might be a little clingy. And if he cares too much about like the outcome of any one interaction in general, that can be a very needy quality. So I try and get him to focus on, as a guy, I try and get the guys that I teach to focus on being the right type of guy, and then just trusting that will attract the right type of women. And there are certain women that are just never gonna like you, certain women that are gonna like you no matter what, and then there's this like range in the middle.
Yes.
But the girls that will like you more for being your truest self than if you try and cater to every little thing they want.
Right.
So, yeah.
For your job, then, what does your day look like? Like, you wake up and what happens?
So I wake up usually around 3 p.m. or something like that.
That's awesome.
Usually have
That's
something
amazing.
to eat, maybe work on some videos, work on some editing.
So coming here was like you had to wake up to get your ass here.
I did, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I wake up, do some videos, and then I usually have coaching with the guys in the evening out in Vegas. So that's like 6:30 to 9, and then go shower, get ready, go out to the club till about 4 or 5, and then wash, rinse, repeat, if that makes sense.
So you're not in LA typically?
No, I come to LA probably about every month or two.
Okay, so so I was wondering, I wasn't sure when I watched one of your videos, you mentioned how you can you get away with basically, I mean, I'm sure now because you're at a higher status, you're recognized, but you've tested out this going to a club and walking up, and then they're like, are you on the guest list? And you're like, and you said that you have to look in their eyes and you're like, it's me.
Yeah.
It's me, Todd. And then, or like, it's Todd. Like, you did something and you said it gets you in more often than not.
Yeah.
So, okay, first of all, that's definitely, I feel like there's so many men that have done that now. And they're like, what the hell? Todd said this was going to work. And then obviously, because they don't have that, you have a confidence about you because, so, but explain that to people who didn't see that video.
Yeah, if it comes off as reactive, it comes off like you're trying to like make an impression, it won't work. But the whole thing is it's entitlement, right? Clubs want certain people in and don't want other people, and certain people are good for business, certain people aren't. The extreme is hot girls are good for business because they attract guys that will pay for tables, and guys who pay, $10,000 for a table are obviously good for business for direct reasons.
Absolutely.
So they want those types of people. And for guys that are not like buying a table or whatever, you are kind of coming in at like a lower value in the club. So either the way that you can be of value to the people running the club is either bring girls, which is, one way to go, become sort of like a sub promoter almost for the club, or you have to be a guy who they look at you and are like, okay, he's cool. He's going to make the atmosphere in the club better. He believes he deserves to be here. He's of the right caliber. And so when someone looks in your eyes, they can tell a lot based on, can you look them straight in the eye? Do you flinch? Is your voice level? Do you believe what you're saying? So when they say, are you on the guest list? Like, no, it's just me, right? And you just like look at them, but it's not reactive. It's not like, no, it's just me. Please, can I come? It's not like that, but it's also like, no, it's just, you're not trying too hard that way either. But it's you believe that they're gonna let you in.
So you go by yourself a lot to these clubs?
Sometimes, yeah. I try and avoid. Well, I go with guys a lot because I have to teach them.
Right.
But I always tell the guys to go in groups of 1 or 2 at most. 'Cause you go on. My friend in San Francisco who coaches with me, he has this phrase. He calls a group of 5 guys or more. He calls it cancer AIDS, right? Because it's essentially getting into the club. That's what it is.
Right,
it's like
right.
you will just get denied.
Yeah, of course, right.
So you go out how many nights a week would you say?
6.
6 nights a week. Oh my gosh. Do you ever like? I know now you have a girlfriend, whatever it is, but do you feel like it's ever like so much partying, going out, getting these girls, trying like all these times? Do you ever just want to just like sit home and relax and not worry about girls, or is it all about girls and as it should be?
Yeah, no, I definitely have times when I would prefer to. I'm a natural introvert, so yeah, I definitely have times where I'd prefer to chill. But I mean, I look at my job and I'd rather have it than another job, right? If I'm looking at it as
life ain't bad.
If I'm looking at it as I could be having more fun right now, then okay. But if I'm looking at it as I could be in a cubicle like doing some like really mundane job right now, then what I do is pretty fun.
You are so interesting because so many reasons, but one in particular is I feel like you overanalyze everything, or like but even so, I feel like everybody else is in the wrong. Like everybody else should be doing what you're doing and they're all lazy, so you stand out because you're the only person that's like, yeah, I care about my life. So, and I feel like you did this at a young age, that you said something about how the trip where certain people couldn't go on their field trip because it was too expensive, and you stood up and you got that ovation. So you obviously, you don't take anything at face value, it seems.
Yeah, no, I try and think for myself,
figure
and
it out,
yeah,
right?
and I've always really wanted to understand the world. I really wanted to come up with like a model for how things work. And I think aside from just with the whole girl thing, aside from just wanting a girlfriend, like it really, really frustrated me that my model for the way the world worked with women didn't work and wasn't getting results. And in high school especially, I looked around and my whole model for the world was if I get good grades, I'm a good athlete, like, you know, wear the right clothes, whatever, that sort of thing, like girls will just naturally like me, because that's what I saw on TV and in movies. And I did that, and I was like the poster child for like how you're supposed to be for like the American dream. And I didn't get girls, and then I looked at the guys that were getting the girls, and I was like, this douchebag, like what
Right.
like why him, really?
Right.
And so yeah, it really, really frustrated me. It made me very motivated to figure it out.
But usually people that are caring, usually the guys that are the caring ones, at least it seemed for me when I was younger, it was like the ones that were nice and caring, they never got the girls, and the ones who were like assholes did. So you obviously broke that mold because you're you seem like a very nice person. You have a very beautiful, nice girlfriend, so I assume you're very nice.
She nods yes.
So,
she says yes, he's a nice guy.
So you're kind of breaking that stereotype for a lot of men that are like, oh, I have to be a douche to get good, like hot girls or nice girls. You're saying no, that's not the case. You don't.
No, you don't have to. In fact, being a douche or being a jerk doesn't actually help, but having the ability to be one and get away with it, and having some of the characteristics of one does help.
Oh.
So
confidence,
being confident, being strong-willed, being someone who's willing to take a lead, being someone who's willing to offend someone every once in a while instead of trying to like cater and like, you know, give them everything they want, like hand over fist. That conveys high status. I mean, imagine if you were in a royal court and you were the king in that court. You wouldn't be so concerned with making sure everyone gets what they want all the time, because you don't have to.
Right.
And so being too concerned with other people's reactions, being too concerned with the minute to minute, like how everybody's mood is all the time, it actually conveys lower value in a way.
If you had to just generalize completely, clump all men into one group and give like one sentence of advice to all men out there, I know that putting up or whatever it is, what kind of advice would you give?
I would say focus more on the process than the outcome, because that'll work for everyone. Focus on trying to figure out what your best self is and figure out how to convey that.
Well,
yeah.
That's so interesting.
All these men watching right now are going to go out to the club tonight and pick up chicks. You're welcome for getting you laid.
Yeah, seriously.
You're
seriously.
welcome.
So the texting part of like, do you ever have to talk to them about like, okay, don't answer a girl immediately, or don't text question marks 5 times after you've texted? They'll get to you when they can. Like,
This is clearly something that bothers you when people do
I hate when people do that.
Yeah.
Don't follow her
I got
around
your thing.
Target.
Yeah, don't follow me. Don't do the question mark because I got your question. So like, how do you actually do that?
Yeah, I teach text. Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
You teach text.
It
Oh
was
my
one
god,
of your
that's awesome.
articles was all about texting.
Yeah, I'm
That's
actually in the online game book is going to be texting as a huge section in there as well. So
Oh my god. So
we'll
give us
definitely teach
some
that.
advice about that.
Okay, so for texting, a big part of it is you have to know where you're at in the interaction. There's a big model I use called social capital, but it basically means that at any point in interaction, you've built up a certain level of trust, comfort, connection with the person you're dealing with. So someone that you've met as a stranger on the street, if you say something dumb, the interaction might be over. But if you've dated someone for 6 months or they're in your family, you can say something dumb and the interaction, the relationship will continue.
So
So
say, ha ha ha, you so dumb.
exactly, but they'll still love you deep down.
Exactly, right.
So when you're when you're texting someone you've just met, there's not a lot built up there. So you have to kind of be fun and funny, and we call it offering value. You say fun, interesting things and don't ask for a lot in return, right? You have to give before you can receive in a way.
Love that.
Yeah.
And not enough guys do
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So a lot of guys, their first, they'll get a number and then their first text is, would you like to get a drink 7 o'clock at this place? And that's a lot for a girl to handle.
Yeah.
It's very
Right.
heavy.
Like
Right.
I don't even know if I like you yet, so give me something so I can work
Exactly.
off of it. Okay, so you've talked about this book a lot. Can you tell us a little
Yes.
more about it? Where we're gonna be able to find it, or is it really early in the process?
It's early in the process. We have actually the book is almost written, almost
Congrats.
completed.
Awesome.
And we'll be turning the book into an interactive video product where it'll be
Wow.
like, here's a situation, how do you handle it? Here are the principles, that kind of stuff with with video quizzes and everything, and me talking more than you probably want me to.
That's so cool.
Not true.
Thank you, appreciate that. So that's going to be launching on September 1st. That's when that comes out.
September 1st.
Yep.
Where?
Online. You'll be able to find it at realsocialdynamics.com.
Awesome. Oh my God, we're gonna
That
have
is so
to.
cool.
Any guy that I want to potentially date, I'm gonna be like, go to this site first, then call me. Then we can do drinks.
So, what is your ultimate goal? Because I mean, you've already accomplished so much, but it seems like you're still gun ho, like you're really still motivated. Something keeps a
I
fire.
think we call it hustling.
Yeah, in a sense. So, what's your ultimate goal? Is it to have a TV show or is it to have? I don't know. What's bigger than this? I'm not really sure at this point.
As far as business-wise, we're obviously there's a lot. I'm very, very ambitious. I would love to do what I do on a much larger scale, to be able to reach many more people, and I'd like to be able to teach more holistically, even because with myself and all of Real Social Dynamics as a company, we're working on moving the concepts that we've built up in the realm of dating and the models for the world that we've established, and taking that to just helping people in general. Helping people with their work, helping people with their health, helping people with all their social interactions, not just dating, and helping people get motivated on the right path for life. So that's something we're really working towards. And then also just scope is, a lot of times I'm teaching 1 person to 3 people at a time. I'd love to be teaching 50 or 100 people at a time,
Right.
and getting my ideas
cool.
out there.
And actually getting them across, which would be
Exactly.
great. Outside of your career, though, married, kids, is that something that you want and you teach, or is that something that you're not even thinking about right now?
I'm in an interesting place in terms of all that. I definitely do want kids at some point, and I definitely know that I want the right type of people around me in the long run. I don't want to just be I don't want to be in a situation where when I'm 60, I have to go to a bar and do cold approach.
Yeah.
Cold approach.
Cold approach, yeah, talking to strangers. So I don't want to obviously be there. I'm still in a learning phase in terms of other things I'm doing, so I'm kind of in between. But it's definitely on the radar for the future.
Well, there are so many old men that I've seen in LA that have these hot girls. So I mean, not
Nothing
to say
wrong
you,
with
but these 60-year-olds, I think the younger guys can take a pointer from them. I don't know what they are doing, but they're doing something.
You hit on that
Yeah, I know,
before.
I
Money,
know.
money, money, money.
The nice thing as a guy, though, is the older you get, the more life experience you have, and the
That's
more you
right.
can share, the more value you can offer.
Right.
Because we're judged a lot based on our not necessarily just our looks, but our personality, our attitude, the things we've accomplished, the things we can do, and power factors in as well, which you get with more time, more success.
Right.
So.
What's the number one thing that you think women are drawn to in a guy?
Confidence, I believe, self-belief, and sort of knowing how to give a girl an experience, which hopefully ideally go together, if that makes sense.
Okay.
I would like to be given an experience.
Yeah, right.
That sounds nice.
Well, then why does all of my friends seem to get in the same issues where they all keep dating guys that don't call them after they have sex with them. They obviously give out too early. That's obvious. But they like the bad guys. So is that because those bad guys have a sense of confidence about them? Or is it
Yes,
because they're a challenge and they want to fix them?
I would say both of those definitely. The confidence definitely. Like if you take a guy who knows he has abundance with women, knows that women are attracted to him, versus a guy who's insecure, that is going to be more attractive. And also the challenge thing that factors in for everyone, right? Everybody values what they've worked for.
Oh, what do you think is the most important?
Trust.
That's what you look for. Like, if you were going on a first date, like, trust.
I would want him to be like an honest person I could trust. Like, I would.
Here's the
look for
thing
that.
with that, though.
I don't know about a first date.
How do you know? How do you know
No.
until you've like actually got to know someone?
No, for first, no. I take that back. That's what I would want once I'm there.
And a boyfriend.
First, I like somebody that I've noticed looks don't really matter to me, which is weird because if the guy is really, I'd say confident. But
by
also
the way,
like
she has the most gorgeous boyfriend in
but
the entire world.
No,
so.
but I'm saying, I know, but still, doesn't matter. I still think these things. I'm like, I'm always thinking. But someone who's like powerful. He seems powerful, and he seems like he could he has like people working for him.
That makes sense.
Like, and he's he's at the top.
That makes total sense.
So
I get it.
That's being honest.
Oh, good. You go for those powerful men, baby.
Yeah.
I'll cheer you on.
Yeah. You are so interesting.
Thank you.
You're so cool, and you're so nice, and you're so nice, and everybody here is so nice.
Oh my
Thank
God.
you all so much for
You're so
coming
nice.
today. And so where can your fans and people who want to get in touch with you, where can they find you?
I'd say check out my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/rsdtodd, and then my blog, which is valentinelife.com.
And social media?
Social media, on Twitter, Facebook, it's at @RSDTodd.
Cool.
RSD Todd. Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for tuning into the Spotlight On. I'm Ashley Daniels. You can find me at Miss Ashley Daniels on Twitter and Instagram. And my lovely little sidekick, where can we find you?
You can find me everywhere at Roxy Stryer.
Awesome. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
She teaches boot camps with me, actually. She
See
helps
you
me teach
later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.
Thank you for watching AfterBuzz TV on YouTube. For more of your favorite after shows and interviews, subscribe to our channel here, and be sure to share your opinion on the episode in the comment section below here. We'd love to see what you guys are buzzing about. Thanks again. Buzz you later.